Nobody. This may be a quick live stream. There's a few people. Yeah, I was beginning to think you guys didn't love me anymore. It's weird. My chat is showing up on. There we go. Maybe showing up in Streamlabs, but not on YouTube. Oh well. I'm trying out this 4K thing on my camera, so I don't know. Hopefully we'll see how it see how it works. I mean, I got it set to 24 frames per second, which is where I usually shoot just about everything because I think it's the most. I'm told it's the most cinematic look. But yeah, so beyond that, I'm trying out some new camera settings. Audio choppy. There, is that better? I know I got audio because I can see it. Phaser out of sync. I have no idea how to fix that. Phaser out of sync. Still weird? Not that I've done anything different. Oh, you're. Oh, I see. You're pulling my leg. Sorry. Sorry, I'm not with it. I guess I. Sound is stuttering. Distorted now. Better. Let me move the mic away from me a little bit. Hopefully that sounds better. Cool. Sorry about that, guys. Not my intention. I thought it was something like this always happens every time I go messing with my settings somewhere. This time it happened to be my camera settings. So, oh well. I'll figure out this video thing one of these days. Oh boy. So, what's going on? Everybody get their fill of summer NAMM coverage. Not that there was a whole lot, at least not that I saw, but there wasn't a lot of people there. It was. I know a couple of people that went. I know a few people that went. One of them being a vendor. My buddy Justin, who's the product specialist for Two Notes. He was there. I think the Two Notes were there. He was. They had set up a booth, and he mentioned it was pretty quiet. So, which is kind of a couple of guys that that I work with in my company also said it was kind of one guy described it as sad and depressing because it was so quiet. So I'm communicating with Mrs. Jackson for a moment because we're having some friends over tomorrow, and we got quite a bit of stuff that we got to do, such as cutting the grass. If you didn't read my screen caption, for this week. Oh boy, let's see. What else is going on? You guys are quiet. Cushman NYC is here. Timothy Plonk, OGOG, Thunder Falcon, Oz Coleman. I think that's everybody. Everybody that I see, anyway. Yeah. I got a new toy. This is not Guitar Gear or Guitar Gear related. It just arrived in the mail today, so I thought I would. That knife sucks. Anyway, just got here today, so I thought I would open her up and share it here while I'm hanging out with you guys. Jesus, this thing's supposed to be a tactical knife. Should be a whole lot better than that. Here is my new watch. Which one did I score? This is my Watch Gang subscription watch that I got this month. A brand called Aqua Nero that I'm not familiar with. That's actually kind of sharp. Wow. Yeah, check that out. For any watch guys out there, any other watch guys, Aqua Nero Orosphere, Hydrosphere. Like a dive watch of some kind. Let's see. I don't. This one. Stainless steel. Swiss movement, it says. Oh, that's probably Swiss quartz. Yeah, usually quartz watches, I usually just toss them straight in the sell pile, but, you know, honestly, Swiss quartz, maybe. That is a sharp looking watch. Cool. Any of you guys watch guys out there besides me? I know I share my my watch hobby on here every now and again, but damn it. Yeah, that's some bitch on there tight, didn't they? Let's try going the other way. Kind of cool because I don't have a watch with a white a white face on it. This one's a little more of an off-white, but still pretty close. I like that. Weird. I don't know. I will wear that one here this week. Give it a test run. OG says, think they expected it to be a little smaller name. A little smaller name will show, guess everyone's back ordered too. Well, there's all kinds of shit that's back ordered right now. Manufacturing is still working on getting caught up after the nightmare that was 2020. For a lot of companies anyway, not everybody, but a lot of them. And I think I talked about this here on the live show a few weeks ago. The same. A big part of the problem is, even if manufacturing is caught up, here in the U.S. anyway, all of our shipping ports are currently loaded up with shipping containers, and the port, the Port Authority folks are, who are responsible for inspecting everything before they send it out into the wild. They're all working 12, 14-hour days right now. They're just, I feel sorry for those people. I would assume they've got to be hiring more just to get through their workload right now. So I talked to, I've got a customer waiting on a particular Hammond keyboard. So I called Hammond, a month or two ago to check on that, and Steve told me, he's like, said it's, I've got 4 containers sitting at the port in L.A. Said if I'm waiting on 4 containers, Walmart and Best Buy got to be waiting on at least a couple of thousand. So he was right. I'll bet you that is really, really accurate. So it's taken like 2 or 3 months for to move a container through the port. Haas Coleman's has just got a Jackson Pro King V. Nice, those are cool. Dave Mustaine likes to say that he's the one that made the Jackson King V famous, and he may have an argument there. Is that your Marshall JCM900? If you're talking about that Marshall, yes, it is. Which I don't, it's the only Marshall in the shot. I don't know what else you would be talking about. The only my other one is sitting right here next to me where you can't see it. So yeah, that's my JCM900. Cushman NYC says you need a buck knife. I bought this thing. This thing actually showed up as a Facebook ad, and I almost never even pay those things any mind at all because, God damn it. I almost never pay those Facebook ads any mind at all because, half the time they're scams. And, this one, though, was, they were advertising, this free knife. All I had to pay was shipping, so $12 or whatever it was. And I'm thinking, and I lost my box cutter that I used to use to open boxes and shit. I have no idea where I put it. So I needed a new knife, and that one was $12. So what the hell? And I bought it, and it's built well. It's really well made. It's got all the features on it that it's supposed to have, but blade seems to get dull fairly easily because I haven't had it that long and I haven't really done anything but open boxes with it. Randall Vandergriff says, I want a Samick made Guild walnut semi-hollow body or single cut $4.99 or a blue with wiggle stick for $5.99. I've played. I haven't played the semi-hollow bodies, but I've played a lot of the current Guild product line, and all the ones that a good thing getting bought out by Cordoba. Cordoba buying Guild from Fender was nothing but a good thing. And they're building, all the ones I played, they're building them right. Even the high-end US, the $4,000 12-string acoustics or whatever those things cost that are, I played with, God, that thing was insane. I played the Korean, like the $1,100 Korean model right before it and thought that was a killer guitar. And then I played the expensive one right after that and was like, whoa. Now I see why people like these things so much. So, if you want a Guild, I don't blame you. OG says $10 Walmart specials for work watches. I went through a bunch of those, and and I do still have. I've got a quartz watch by a brand called Ulysses Gerard, Ulysses Gerard is the brand name, and I've got one. I mean, it's a really really nice looking watch, but it's a quartz. And it's one of those really nice looking watches, but it's not expensive at all. That's the one that I use for that I wear when I'm doing yard work and shit like that. That's my beater. That's my beater watch. Haas Coleman says I collect pocket watches. I used to have a pocket watch around here somewhere. It's probably buried in a box somewhere, if I had to guess. But yeah, I remember. I think must have been my parents that gave me a pocket watch when I was a kid, and I used that thing for a long time. I don't know. I've never really. It's only been here in the last 6 months or so that I've really actually gotten into watch collecting, and connoisseurism. But I mean, I've always worn a watch. I feel naked if I don't have a watch on. Now I just sleep in the damn thing, and really the only time I do take off a watch is either when I'm changing it out for another watch, or I'm getting in the shower, or the rare occasion I'm on vacation somewhere and I'm getting ready to go swimming or something. Those are the only instances I'll ever take off my watch. And there's been times in my life, like anybody else, you get up and go to work and forget, you forget to put your watch on, and spend all day looking at an empty wrist. Drives me crazy. So I'm just a watch guy. So I got my dad a nice watch for his retirement here last month. He seemed to really like. He hadn't had it sized and put on him yet, so I don't know how if he's using it, but I'm sure he is. Well, let's see. Mr. Blue says looking to get an envelope filter suggestions for base. If you're looking at an envelope filter for base, that MXR, the MXR, what are they called? I think it's just called the base envelope filter. I can't remember the model number, but M something, I'm sure. But that thing is kick ass. That is a killer envelope filter pedal for bass. If you want the treadle variety, the like the one that the expression pedal variety, check the Dunlop bass wah that's actually an envelope filter rather than a wah pedal. The white one with the spring loaded white one. That's a really cool envelope filter, and I don't have it out here, or I don't have it in here. It's out there by my other desk. But honestly, one of the best envelope filters I like is the old DoD FX series. I think it's the FX25, maybe FX25B, something like that. For that's the envelope filter. I think there was an older two knob, and then later on they came out with a 3 knob. I had the 3 knob version, and that one that one has a guitar pedal, by the way. So that's a really cool one, and believe it or not, the Line 6, the auto filter. I think it's the auto filter. Yeah, it's the auto filter. Yeah, the Line 6, the Tone Core series auto filter, which you can see right about there. Part of it, anyway. So, yeah, for envelope filters, that's one of those things. I don't need a ton of them, but I've got a couple of them laying around. It's not an effect that you see used a whole lot in hard rock and metal, but but it's one of those effects that, it's one of those effects that's so much fun to mess around with. I mean, you got to at least have one laying around somewhere. Chris Man NYC, give it a sharpen. That's what I'm going to do. It's going to meet the knife sharpener down here shortly. Randall Vandergriff says, I collect Elvis wrestling belts, a few toys, comic books, and guitars. I collected comic books for a long time. I sold off my collection about I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, and the values of comic books just have taken a major fucking hit. I sold the whole thing for like I had like 2,500 books, and some key Marvel, and DC stuff, and I was lucky. I got $300 for the whole thing, and that was after me trying to sell it for years, trying to get closer to what it was worth. And finally, I just wanted the space, and I wanted it done, and wanted it gone. So, $300. Wrestling belts. I would love to collect wrestling belts, but I don't need another hobby. And my wife would kill me if I started collecting wrestling belts. So those things, that's a much narrower market than a lot of other things. There's a really, really small, tight knit community for the really high end stuff. Like the wrestler worn. Like the big gold belt that Ric Flair wore as he was walking to the ring, on TV. That, not the non-replica belts. Those things go for big money. And like I said, it's a real small community real small community of guys that collect those things. So I would, but I would love to collect wrestling belts, but they, yeah, like I said, I don't need another hobby. Cushman NYC says I like Invicta for knockaround watch. Yeah, I'm not a big Invicta fan either. I actually did recently just order an Invicta watch, but I bought it because it's a Batman watch, and I love Batman, so it's a Batman watch, and it was an automatic for $45. If it was a quartz, I wouldn't have bought it, but because it was an auto for $45, I don't care if it's an Invicta or not. That's about what Invictas are worth to me anyway. So, in my limited knowledge of watch collecting. Mr. Blue says, where do we buy swag to support the channel? Funny you should ask. If you look there at the top of the chat, there should be a link there to my Teespring shop that I have pinned. I usually try to remember to pin it at the top of the chat every for every live stream, so that it's there. So you can do that. You can also find the link to it down in the description of this video or any of my other videos. Or if you just don't want to mess with one of my stupid t-shirts or anything. God, what is up with this camera? All the other links that you can use to support the channel, like Patreon and PayPal, if you for a one-time donation, that kind of stuff. Those are all down there as well. And you can, of course, there's also that little $ icon there. I think it's below the chat. I don't remember where it is. Yeah, you can use that, and that will send a donation through YouTube. But if you want to get something out of the deal, Teespring Shop's your best bet. Great channel, super appreciate what you do. My pleasure, sir. I don't know that I do anything significant or anything special, but I appreciate it. I'm glad that you have enjoyed the channel. So ZT knives can't be beat. I'm not familiar with those. I'm familiar with ZT amps, not ZT knives. Man. Well, I got one video recorded this week, and I'm I'm working on another one that I'm waiting on some video clips from a few other guys, and so once I have those, then I can get that one edited and added to the into the video queue. But right now I'm still way behind, and so videos for me might be a little more time in between them than you guys are used to seeing. So if there is a lack of content on my channel here coming up, I apologize. It's been a busy couple of months, and with things other than YouTube that have required my attention, as we all have those things. So if it doesn't concern you, if you're not worried about it, cool. Hey, Ian Nunez is here. What's up, dude? What do you think of Les Paul Classics? Depends on the era, I suppose. When what was that, 2019, when Gibson's new management took over? Everybody in the guitar industry was saying, Gibson had too many tiers of Les Pauls, and they needed to eliminate one of them. And because you had the tributes, which I'm sorry, I think the tributes suck. I hate those things. They had the tributes, they had the studios. Right after that, studios I think are probably the best bang for your buck Les Pauls. Then they had the classics, the traditionals, the standards, the customs, and then all of the insane, stupid money custom shop shit. But the traditionals and the classics were both really, really close together, and they're like the classics were just really both of them. The classics and the traditionals are both really, really similar to the standards. I mean, the classic was a little bit more stripped down. The traditional was the old standard before they changed the design of what the standard became in 2008. Anyway, to answer your question, the newer ones since new management took over are okay. I actually really like the older classics, like from 2000, the mid 2000s up through like 2012 or something like that. Because those were, I don't know, I just liked them better. They came with the, with the super ceramic pickup set on them, so they were a little bit higher output, a little hotter sounding. And I just liked them. I just liked them. The newer ones are coming with 57 Classics or Burst Buckers or something like that. I think of Burst Buckers. But those are they're all okay. I don't have anything. It's not like I despise any of the classics. They're good Les Pauls, especially for the money. But I prefer my preference. I like the older ones. One that didn't last long that I think is one of the best Les Pauls that they ever made. Look for one called the Classic Custom. Those were badass. They sold brand new for $18.99. I remember I sold a ton of those things. They sold brand new for $18.99. Gibson only made them for like 2 years. It came with 57 Classic Plus in the bridge, I think. And it was kind of like the best of both worlds between a standard and a custom. And like I said, man, those guitars are badass. So if you want to, and hardly anybody remembers them. Nobody knows about them. I think you can pick them up for like $1,200-$1,300 on the used market. So if you want a really cool one, look for a Classic Custom, not a Custom Classic. It's called a Classic Custom. Larry Fry's here. So what's going on? I haven't been on here for a while. I've been a little spotty on here myself lately, to tell you the truth. I've been, I did the live stream last week. The week before I didn't. And I think maybe I did do one the week before that, and I went like 2 or 3 weeks where I didn't do one at all. A couple of those weeks I was out of town. One of them was loaded up with honeydew stuff that I just didn't have time for it. And there's one of them I honestly just didn't feel like sitting in front of a camera for a change, so I took a Saturday off. And this time, my world tends to get a little bit busier this time of year anyway. So just because, yeah, I just get busier. It gets warmer outside. I gotta take care of the outside of the house. Golf season. I try to play golf when I can. The Indiana State Fair is coming up here and starting in next week, I believe. So, and I love the fair. So we're gonna go down there. And I'm gonna get fatter because fair food is badass and only happens once a year, and we didn't get it at all last year because of COVID. So. Sebastian Chong says, what do you think of using Les Paul Classics for 80s metal, playing stuff like Randy Rhoads, GNR, Vivian Campbell? In my honest opinion, sorry, Les Paul traditional, not classics. To be honest with you, I think you just answered your own question. You just named 4 guys that all play, are all known for playing Les Pauls for most of their careers, and then you throw in guys like Zakk Wylde and Adam Jones and George Lynch has been playing Les Pauls lately, and he's played Les Pauls off and on throughout his career. There's been that's, say what you want about Gibson, but that's actually been one of the major appeals to Les Pauls over their lifespan, at least since the 70s or so, because they've always been really, really versatile, and you see Les Pauls used in all kinds of different genres of music, that are not even remotely related. So, yeah. So, yeah, I love all those guys. Both those guys from Guns N' Roses back in those days. Vivian Campbell, a monster guitar player. I think that if there's, man, you go listen to the early Dio stuff. All those blazing fast solos, those are all Vivian Campbell. Of course, everybody knows how great Randy Rhoads was. Yep. Nope, I wouldn't be afraid to use Les Paul traditional for any of that stuff. Tried to order a shirt, wouldn't let me due to high demand. Still try to buy as day goes on. Gotta love Teespring. Bastards. I'm a Les Paul guy, but Larry Fry says I'm a Les Paul guy, but just bought a 57 Fender Strat. Assuming you mean 57 reissue, but regardless, I've always been a Gibson guy. I get frustrated with them here from time to time when they do stupid shit with their marketing, and when they put out garbage guitars. But those things seem to be improving. So overall, I've been a Gibson guy for most. Gibson and BC Rich have been my 2 favorite guitar brands. But there is something to be said about a really, really good sounding Strat. That's sometimes it's. That Strat single coil sound that's it's also really, really versatile and does it could be used in a lot of different things. There's a sound I agree I really, really like. So the 57, what you're depending on the 57 reissues. I always like the 62 reissues better myself. I prefer the rosewood neck. In the 60s, even Fenderland had a little bit thinner neck than the 50s did. Not much, but a little bit. So I just prefer the 50s. And also the other big thing with the 60s. That's when they moved the truss rod adjustment up to the headstock instead of that stupid thing that they did in the 50s where you had to unbolt the neck and adjust it with a screwdriver. That sucked. But a lot of people don't mind that. And one thing that I got to give Fender credit for is, I mean, they don't need neck adjustments very often. So, yep, gotta love a good Strat, man. I don't have one, but I wish I did. I've got my Chapman. It's a Strat style. Gets the job done for me for now. One of these days, I'm gonna get a nicer Fender. Taking a break from trimming the hedges, halfway done, then the grass. Rain makes things grow. That's been my problem, man. I haven't cut my grass in like 3 weeks. Last week it was I think 2 weeks ago, and the week prior to that, it was raining like hell on the weekends, which is the only time I have to do it. It was raining like hell both of those weekends, and I couldn't get to it. Last week last weekend it didn't rain, and I could get to it, but honestly, I just didn't feel like it. So I let it go. So my neighbors are pissed at me right now, I'm sure. So I'm gonna go fix it. Hey, Divinity Guitars popped in here to say hello. I guess he's down in Kentucky. G says, do you think people have finally had enough of digital processors and now tube amps are back in? Not at all. I'm never going to switch to a processor. I'm not a processor guy at all. So I mean, they don't have to worry about me migrating away from tube amps. But the truth is, a lot of people. I know a lot of people that are selling their Mesa rigs and their full size half stacks that they've been using forever. A lot of people, they're selling off all of that stuff in favor of going like silent on stage or using a Helix or a Axe-Fx or something with an FR speaker of some kind. So yeah, I mean, there's more and more people, in the younger generation now, younger generation of bands that you're seeing that are just now starting to come up. A lot of those bands are what's the name of that band? Rings of Saturn or something like that. I think it is that dude Jared Dines got in hot water over accusing one of their guitar players of playing a fake solo or something. I don't remember what it was, but I think it was that band. But bands, that band and bands like that, of guys that are the same age, they're all going completely silent on stage. No amps anywhere, all processors direct to the mixing board with a cab simulator IR or something in between. The Helix actually has IRs built in, so they've got all but they're sending it direct to the board and using in-ear monitors, so stage is completely silent. That's getting more and more popular. A lot of younger bands. I'll never go to it. I prefer stage, I prefer stage monitor, or I've always just used my amp as my monitor because it's mic'd up. But yeah, tube amps aren't going anywhere. I promise you, tube amps are not going anywhere. Digital processors aren't going anywhere, but digital processors are eventually going to go obsolete. I say this all the time. The day will come when the Helix is obsolete because Line 6 has come out with a new latest and greatest that they are now selling. So once that day happens, you're going to see all the Helixes hit the used market, and the values are just going to absolutely tank. And if you want to see what I'm talking about, look up the old HD Pro 500, because at one time that was their top dog processor, and those things are... you can pick them up pretty cheap on the used market. The XT Live. There was the XT Live, the X3 Live, the Pot. I don't know, any of those older Line 6 processors. Maybe you can pick some of those. You can get them dirt cheap. You can find them used for like under $100 now because the technology's so old now. It's useless. Not useless, but It's not current, and the stuff that's out now is way better. So tube amp set's never going to happen with. Thanks. I was thinking of paying a bit for the Les Paul Standard because I was afraid that the Les Paul Traditional may be too outdated in its tone. Maybe players said that the Randy Rhoads would not have cut it. I don't think they're outdated in its tone. There's not, I don't. I mean, guitars. I mean, just real similar to what I was just talking about with tube amps. I mean, guitars, tone wise, they don't get outdated, unless it's a digital something or other like that. Like the original Line 6 Variax, for example. Guitars don't get outdated. That's why so many, why vintage guitars are so valuable, because as they've aged over time, the wood has continued to cure, particularly nitrocellulose finished guitars. The wood has continued, the wood continues to cure and the tone changes. And in a lot of cases, like acoustic guitars, old Martins and stuff, it warms up. The tone warms up, and a lot of people think that's a big improvement, and you just can't buy anything brand new today that does that because the wood's not old enough. So, and it has not cured the same way that a vintage guitar has. So if you're ever questioning why a vintage guitar it may be as expensive as it is, ask yourself, what can you buy new today that sounds like this? So, how do you feel about the Boss Katana amps? Seemed like people were raving over them. They still are. In that arena, it's debatable whether or not the Katana is actually a modeling amp, because it's really not. Unlike the Line 6 Spiders, where they've got models of a Marshall JCM 800, they have a model of a Mesa Boogie dual rectifier. They've got a model of a PV 5150. They've got a model of a Fender 57 Tweed, something or other. That's that specific amp sound that they intend for that particular setting to sound like. The Boss Katanas are, they have a lot of stuff that are in that neighborhood, but they're not really models trying to copy other amps, famous classic amps that are out there. With the exception of the JC120, which of course is their own. That they, whereas Line 6 dominated that affordable modeling amp arena. The Katanas are kind of interesting because Boss just put out the Katana, just because they just wanted to have something to compete in that arena. That's the only reason that they put it out. It took off on them way more than they were expecting. Became the best-selling amps on the market in that in that particular category, and their production was way behind. I mean, they were back ordered for a while because the demand for them was way more than they had anticipated, and it took them a while to get caught up. Now they've actually come out with a Mark II version. So, people are raving over them. Because for the money, they're tough to beat. If you buy a Boss Katana, I mean, is it going to sound like, you take that to, Boss Katana is the, is it going to sound just like it, sound as good as a actual Marshall JCM 800? No, it's not. But, you're talking about a $300 amp. If your expectations are set properly, you'll probably enjoy it. Sebastian Chong says, in the industry today, way too much Miz and too muddy, not enough lows. I disagree completely with that statement, because too much low in a guitar, number one, that's where the mud comes from. And number two, there comes a point that you're stomping on your bass player's toes, and if you're gonna tune that low and have that much low end, why do you have a bass player? That's stupid. So you're just gonna sound. You're just going to sound better. You're just going to be, your tone is going to be more discernible from the rest of the mix. If you stay out of the bass player's realm, if you will. Kobe out says bucket list guitar of mine would be a 97-98 Gibson Les Paul Classic. Custom from this era is right behind it. I'd be happy probably just about any Les Paul custom. Randall Vandergrift says my Yamaha Strat style rocks and is great quality for not a lot of money. The other one's humbucker and P90 style rocks also. He must be talking about the Yamaha Pacifica, and yes, those are great guitars. All of them, even the cheap ones. Those are awesome guitars, man. I like the Pacificas. I like anything Yamaha. You guys know that. Yamaha's badass. Nunez says I want an E. I assume you mean an ES335 next. Started with pedals, bought a Boss GT6 like a dumbass. I sold my Metal Zone because it had a Metal Zone patch. Not the same to me. Now I'm back to pedals. Yeah, that's the thing with models. They're none of them ever seem to be dead on exact to what they're supposed to be modeling. Even Boss has a tough time modeling their own, their own tones. Like the situation you just described. I've got my OD 200. There's a Metal Zone on that pedal, and while the one that's on there sounds great, it doesn't sound like it. I've got 3 other Metal Zones. It doesn't sound like any of them. Crispy NYC says, I love my Katana 50. Goes down to 0.5 watts, so it's great for practice. Yeah, that's actually a feature that Boss and Roland have been putting on their amps for a while. I've got my old Roland Cube 40 XL that's it's around here. So I guess it's buried under that table over there. I don't use it much anymore, but that was one thing that was handy about it because it's 40 watts. It's even solid state. It's pretty loud amp, but that one had a little low power switch that was designed specifically for bedroom use, home practice, which is primarily what I used it for. I love it all says neither Boss nor Line 6 is something you want to hear for the rest of your life. Oh, bullshit. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Cushman NYC said I've got a 70s Les Paul Custom. I don't like the 70s one, man. The 70s ones, man. I don't. I want a new one. It doesn't need to be brand new, but I want a modern era one. For some reason, I want that clean, shiny tuxedo look on mine. I don't want somebody else's grubby little dick beaters having been all over it. The other thing for the 70s, anything 70s Gibson, Fluff just said in a video here recently, is known to be really, really hit or miss as far as quality goes. That was Norland era. No thanks. Kobe out says, Robert, on the subject of mud tone, does a treble boost help sort out this problem? It can. You know, I mean, a lot of guys that use overdrives and stuff for boosts are doing it, with the tone knob cranked. Maybe not all the way up. It turned up a fair amount, so that it does boost the treble. I think the theory behind that being that more treble balances out the overabundance of low end. Like rectifiers, of course, are known for that. And the flip side of that, the Peppers pedals, the Dirty Tree, I think is a treble boost. It's a boost of some kind. I have not gotten to play one yet, but people are raving about that pedal. And Tony Peppers has built himself a. He designed a gold mine with that because it is really popular. You can't find them used anywhere because nobody will let loose of them. And Tony being a one-man show, they don't pop up for sale very often either. So, will a treble booster fix it? I think it kind of depends on how it's dialed in. Sometimes just a flat boost into the front end. I don't know. It depends on where the mud's coming from. If it's coming from a pedal or something, turn down the low end on the pedal if you can. If it doesn't have a low end control, then you may need to hit the front end of it with something. Something to tighten it up. Yankee Peter says, "What's happening, Robert? When you listen to music just for enjoyment? Are you digital, analog, or combination listener?" I still have all of my CDs. And I'm not going to let loose of them, despite the fact that my wife has recently has been suggesting otherwise. I spent decades collecting them. And I do still buy a CD every now and then, but if it's available, but they're harder and harder to find now. They are, I do still listen to CDs. I still have a few in my car. Realistically, though, most of the time I go digital and plug in my phone, for convenience. Again, strictly for convenience. So, it's nice to be able to set playlists with, across different artists and albums and, stuff like that, and not have, take the phone, set it in the dash, and not have to mess with it while I'm driving. So, so I guess primarily I'm digital. I've gone digital these days. I listen, I use my phone and my headphones when I'm doing stuff outside. Sometimes I'll put on my headphones while I'm going grocery shopping or something. So, yeah, I guess I've gone more digital than I like to admit, but I do still love the quality, CD. I love CD quality audio. Love CD quality audio. I don't know that it's going to get any better than that. I fucking hate vinyl. I'm not collecting records and play. I mean, back in the '80s, that's what we got. That's what we had. So so I was around in the vinyl era, and I remember it. And at the time, even at the time, the sound of the dust hitting the needle and stuff like that. Those quirks of that people really really like about vinyl today. Even then, I remember thinking, man, this not really doing much for me. And when cassettes started coming out, I switched to cassettes pretty quick, and really went all in when CDs came out, because CDs. Goddamn camera. Better? I'm gonna have to figure out what the hell that setting is, because that's driving me insane. Anyway, but sound quality wise, CDs were by far and away the best I'd heard, and still are today. They haven't come out with all the MP3s and stuff are all super super compressed. So Edars, how much you pay me to mow your lawn? Probably $20. Which you'd probably be able to get done in less than an hour because I've got a pretty small yard. So, thanks. I've been seeing many young people with EMG Fishman pickups, and I feel that people are going heavier and lower while my tone is very 80s, and I still like my pickups being DiMarzio, Seymour Duncan. Modern metal players seem to be gravitating towards EMG and Fishman, active pickups, but that's not uncommon. They always have. That's not a new thing. I've always I like active pickups. I do use them, but at the end of the day, I've always preferred passive pickups. I think they're better at picking up the subtle nuances, dynamics, percussive elements of my playing, and offer a little bit more individual note detail, stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with EMGs or Fishmans. I like them quite a bit, but Fishmans I still haven't gotten to try. But I've got several guitars that have EMGs in them, and I play them. I use them in my videos often. You guys see them often, so it's not like I'm trashing active pickups at all. That's not what I'm saying. But passive pickups are probably my preference. I still say the Seymour Duncan JB model is the best pickup on the planet. And Ian's heading back out to the yard. See you, dude. Good luck out there. I'm going to be heading out there not too long from now. I need to do that, and I need to go to the store to grab some things for tomorrow. I'm not sure which one of those I want to get out of the way first. Probably the yard before it gets too goddamn hot out there. John Taylor is here. Mikey Gabbard says I didn't get the notification for the stupid algorithm. YouTube's algorithm is burying me right now. I don't know what I did to piss them off, but apparently I've done something to piss them off because nobody's paying a lick of attention to my channel anymore. Nobody's watching any of my videos. My videos are lucky to draw 500 views if I'm, that's on a good day. The video tomorrow, I guarantee that one's probably not gonna generate more than about 300. YouTube's just absolutely burying my channel right now. As many subscribers as I have, I should be getting a better boost than I am. I don't know. I'm getting a little tired of putting all this work in and nobody watching the shit. So. Off to Texas Roadhouse, says Paul Adamek. I like Texas Roadhouse. Good eatings. Robert, would you swap out the Chapman Strat pickups with Fishman Fluence, or would that defeat the purpose of the guitar? It would absolutely defeat the purpose of the guitar. No, I bought that guitar specifically as a Strat style 3 single coil guitar. If I drop anything in there other than standard passive single coils, that's gonna completely, that completely transforms what I use that guitar for. Takes it into an entirely different tonal category that I frankly don't want it to go into. So no, that's probably the same. It's probably the same philosophy, the same motivation that I have behind modifying guitars these days. If I'm going to buy a guitar just to modify it, why the fuck am I buying it in the first place? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me. So, guys that enjoy modifying guitars and swapping out pickups and tuners and all that kind of stuff, if you're one of the people that enjoy it, fine, go, do what you got to do. But, for me, if I got to modify it, if I'm buying it to modify it, why the fuck am I buying it in the first place? Neil Davis says, if you were commissioning a custom hand-wired amp build, what would you want? Oh, boy. I don't know. I mean, I'm a high-gain guy. I like high-gain amps, and, most hand-wired amps don't seem to do that. Yeah, I don't know. I guess if I were gonna do something like that, it would be like a hand wired Marshall style amp. So like an old Plexi, old 60s, early 70s Plexi design would probably be what I would do. As far as what options are on there, I don't know. That's actually an advantage to I think anyway to PCB amps is you can put a lot more features onto a PCB board than you can a hand wired thing. So John Taylor says just picked up an 80s PV Patriot Tele style guitar for $140 with the case. Those are those old. There's so many of those old USA PVs that people have forgotten all about. That you can. I don't know if that's a USA one or not that you got, but but so many people forgot about those old PV guitars. They're really well made, and you can get them dirt cheap. Christopher Richards, welcome to you. Says Robert, love the channel. Been using an older Crate GX30M for 8 years. Overdrive, chorus, and reverb. I love the thing. Give me a good reason to upgrade. I just don't see why I should replace it yet. That particular model I can't recall off the top of my head, but the Crate. I like those old Crate amps. I just recently did a video. In the last couple of months, showing why some people were shocked at the reveal, and some people weren't fooled at all. But I like those old Crate solid state amps. That said, I've got a GFX 1200, Crate GFX 1200 in the rack here next to me, and putting that thing up next to my Marshall, the 900 behind me, my Mode 4, my Crate Blue Voodoo, which is an all-tube amp, the PV Windsor, the 6505 Plus next to me, pretty much any other, any of the tube amps I've got in this room that, really none of those are really all that expensive, but putting that Crate solid state head up against any of them, there's a difference. There is a difference. The Crate just doesn't have the same, doesn't offer the same sag and dynamics that tube amps, of course, are known for. And tube, it just there's a reason why that amp is probably $200-$300 new or whatever it was. Versus the 900, which sells for that one, not that one, but brand new. If you still find on the reissues, you're gonna pay $2,000 for it. So give you a reason to upgrade. Take your crate combo into your local guitar shop and set it down next to a couple of tube amps, A/B them, and tell me what you think. If you don't see any difference at that point, that you just gotta that's going to make you upgrade, then don't do it. But Ben E in the super chat. Thank you, sirs. Gibson Custom Fund. Have a great weekend. Thank you. I appreciate that very, very much. Hope you have a great weekend, Robert. You still have the best channel on YouTube by all. I think my channel kind of sucks lately, but I appreciate it. Have a great weekend, Paul, if you haven't bounced yet. Sebastian Chung in the super chats. I just went up to pay that kid. Thank you, I appreciate that. I have no idea who that kid is, by the way. But if you're talking about the one in the chat, if you're talking about the neighborhood kid that I'd like to pay, I guess I don't know where either one of them are located now that I think about it. Brandon Hicks says, I caught this by chance. Awesome. Have you tried the Orange Crush Pro? Fantastic game. I haven't, but I know a lot of people that have. Actually, Alan Barnes bought one recently, and he's showed it off on his channel quite a bit lately. And I've always, when they first came out, I was a little skeptical because the original Crush series, the small combos, 20 watt, 35 watt little things, I don't care for those at all. Those are they're just cheap, boxy, little sounding things to me that I don't dig them. So when they came out the Crush Pros, I was pretty skeptical, but I know enough people have used them. Man, they love them. And I've heard a few of them. I haven't played one yet, but I've heard a few of them. I gotta admit, they sound pretty good. I've thought about buying one just to add an orange something or other to my collection because I don't want to drop the coin on a rocker verb, and I can't find a thunder verb for anything recent, anything reasonably priced these days. So, So, yep. I've thought about it. I don't know that I'm going to buy one, but I have thought about it. The thought has crossed my mind. Ooh. I didn't get much sleep last night for some reason. I don't know why. I play nothing but solid state that crushes all analog, so it stays warm sounding. Well, I don't know the fact that it's analog has anything to do with with the warm with the necessarily the tone. I suppose it could, but for a lot of plenty of warm warm tones out of digital gear before. So Boss is actually good at that. Yep. I mean, at the bottom, at the end of the day, man, I think really what matters is, are you playing what you enjoy? Does it sound good to you? Are you happy with what you hear when you turn it on? I think that's obviously the most important thing because, I would, here again, this rack right next to me, and I know you guys can't see it. I'm gonna, as soon as I get everything straightened out all the way in here, I'm gonna do a studio tour this year so you guys can see how I'm operating. But I've still got a few components on the way that I need to add and get set up first. But I've got 1, 2, 3. There's 4 tube amps in here, 1 solid state amp right next to me, and a hybrid. And I love most of them pretty equally. The crate. I'm always going to have a soft spot for crate solid states. Always going to have a soft spot for those because, That was that was the Line 6 of my generation. When you were a teenager growing up, and that Crate was likely your first amp, and because they were everywhere. They were at the time, distortion wise, I mean, it was the heaviest distortion in an amp that you could get, especially for teenage guitar player budgets. And yeah, so I've just always enjoyed them. Always enjoyed them, and owned several. Best amps I've ever heard? No, but like I said, that's what I grew up on. That's what I learned on, and that's why I'm always gonna have a soft spot for them. Yeah. John Taylor says also picked up an Ovation Hammond ES335 style for $500. Wow, it's actually solid flame back and spruce top, an early synth guitar collab. That's interesting. Ovation Hammond collaboration. Interesting. What year was that made? I don't think I've ever even seen one of those. Late 80s, early 90s. There was a lot of guitar collaboration building going on back in that era, like the Sean stuff. I need some coffee. Fast neck with 23 frets. Not 22, but 23. Interesting. Kobe says, Robert, you're killing me after you mentioned Brian Moore guitars on your channel. The prices jumped across the board. If they did, I don't think I had anything to do with that. I mean, prices on everything is going up right now. So, and I don't know how recently you're talking. I haven't talked about Brian Moore guitars for, God, that was a year and a half ago. Great guitars, though. Killer guitars. Ryan Hall, does PV still make good guitar amps? Of course they do. Of course they do. God, the 6505, 5150, whatever you want to call it. I mean that's regarded as one of the greatest rock amps ever. I love that. I've got one sitting right here next to me. As a matter of fact, yeah, now they've got the Invective, which is essentially a design based off of that, off the 6505s. God, they come out with the 3120, the triple, the triple X all of a sudden is getting popular again. Probably more popular now than it was when it was new. Everybody's suddenly deciding that that's a kick-ass amplifier. JSX amps are cool. Well, JSX is basically triple X. I think they're making there's a reissue of the Butcher. I don't know if that's still around, if they're still making it, but at one time fairly recently they were doing a reissue of the Butcher. VTM 60. PV Vipers are honestly just as good as the Line 6 Spider stuff that they're competing against. PV make great amps, always have. Yeah, they put out a few clunkers every now and again, but but if you're, PV's been around since late 60s. If you're a company that's been in business that long, yeah, you're gonna miss a few times here and there. So no, I forgot the PV Windsor that I have here on the other side of me. Robert, who are some of your favorite guitar players? Oh boy, top 5 guitar players. Would have to be James Hetfield, Steve Vai, the kind of the combo duo of Ace Frehley and Paul Stanley, because I'm such a huge Kiss fan. Zakk Wylde, Jerry Cantrell, and both guys from Judas Priest, among others. But those are the guys that all those I mentioned, probably the ones that have inspired me the most. So, You know, there's some lesser known guys. You know, I mean, people I don't even know what their names are. Just know their bands. Um, that you know that I've found inspiration from over the years as well. So, but you know, if you're asking me for a top five list, that's those names that I just mentioned are pretty much it. Kobe also says PV makes good amp. Try the stuff they make with Trace Elliott. They PV bought Trace Elliott, you know. So and I'm not sure where Trace Elliott amps are manufactured anymore. You know, one time are they still Canadian, or am I thinking of Trainer? I don't remember. I'm thinking of Trainer. I think it's made in Canada, but you know Trace Elliott. I don't. You know they might still be. You know they may still have the Trace Elliott factory separate from everything else. I have no idea though. You know, they could have moved that. PV could have shut it down and moved all of that production to China along with everything else. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Fireball says you're a fan of the Korean Dean MLs. Got one hanging up right behind me actually. That's a Razorback, but yeah, yeah. I think all you know. Dean's great, man. Dean are they're another company that's kind of you're seeing more and more of them here recently, and I think a lot of that has to do with that bullshit lawsuit that they received from Gibson. You know, a lot of people want to give a middle finger to the big guy, so I think you're seeing a lot more popularity for Dean guitars here recently. But yeah, I've always loved Dean guitars. I've got the Razorback 10K commemorative hanging up on the wall. You guys can't see it, but it's it's been, I've had it on I've shown it on my channel before. You've seen it, so it's check out some older videos. Matter of fact, I think there's actually a video on that specific guitar. And then I've got the Korean 79 series Cadillac. 79 series. I don't remember what series it is, but the Cadillac that Hoss Coleman sent me a few months back. That's also Korean made Dean. Yep, they're building them right in that factory, man. Mikey Gabbard says I like my XXL a lot. There's that's another PV amp that's suddenly gaining in popularity. That was basically the solid state version of the Triple X, if memory serves. I never cared for that amp too much, but a lot of people, like I said, are gravitating towards them again. John Taylor on his new guitar says a Condor, but the Ovation equivalent is a Tornado. I need to change or mod the bridge due to the pole sticking up that held the synth pickup in place. And Hendrix had one. I think it's rare. I'll have to look that up. Firefall, no. Seriously, you asked me who my favorite guitar players, and because I didn't mention the one that you were hoping for, you're no Dimebag? Really? What? Just because I didn't mention Dimebag doesn't mean I don't like Dimebag. Get the fuck out of here. Seriously. Jesus. Oh. OG says Robert 1, Robert 2, Robert 3, Robert because he shreds hot fire. I am not a shredder by any stretch of the imagination. We all know that. We all know that. I am no shredder. Cushman NYC. Have a good weekend, dude. Brandon Hicks says just bought a Dean Z79. Gonna put EMG 8185. X would be my fourth Dean. I have two other Z's and an ML. My Endo Select Z is great. I I would. I mean, there's a lot of Dean guitars actually that I would buy right now. There's some of the I like a lot of the Cadillacs that are out right now. The the MLs are cool. Of course, of course, the MLs have always been cool. The Cadillac I've always liked. The Z is a design I've always really liked. I can't believe I don't own one of those. Um, you know, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I would buy brand new sight unseen right now. Honestly, the reason why I say I would buy is because I'm I'm holding off, but the next guitar that I buy is I've got my eye on an Ibanez. That's it's actually I haven't on a particular Ibanez because I'm going to I'm still waiting to see if I need it, but the I'm buying it specifically as to use it as a pickup mule. So in other words, a guitar to demo pickups on the channel with. So, but I don't want to buy it yet until I know that I'm going to need it. John Taylor says, "Isn't your favorite guitar player Lil Wayne?" Yeah, throw Nick Jonas in there too while you're at it. Why not? Two of the worst guitar solos. Oh God, poor. I mean, Little Wayne's just a fucking goofball anyway. It's not. It wasn't any surprise to see that he sucked, but but God, that Nick Jonas solo. God, I just, it's like watching a Practical Jokers. Watching every time I see that solo because he walks out, and you're just like, oh my God, he's not really going to do this, and he just, what was he supposed to do? He was a live audience at an award, a nationally televised award show. I mean, he had to, it's not like he could just turn around and go backstage, pretend like it didn't happen, and he didn't have to go through with it. God, poor bastard. I bet we've all been there, man. I can hear the first opening notes of that solo right now. Boy, let's see. Are big amps a thing of the past? I don't know, man. Are big amps a thing of the past? There's still plenty of people out there that use big amps. As John Taylor said there in the chat, go see Maiden or any arena band, and it's stacks upon stacks. He's absolutely right. There, pay, go to your favorite major acts. Next tour when they come around to your city, and see what they got on stage. Especially the really really big bands that have been around forever that are really popular. Those guys are, like Maiden for example. They're still using Marshall full stacks. Judas Priest are still using Marshall full stacks. Now Priest, realistically, they probably got two on a side for each. One, a pair for each guitar player. Granted, Priest's live set is just a giant wall of Marshalls. Most of them are empty, but so I mean, a lot of bands do still use that as an illusion. By now you've all seen the meme with Black Veil Brides. Where somebody took a picture backstage. You saw the front portion of a Marshall cab that was because the rest of it was completely cut out with no speakers in it. Are big amps still a thing? Yeah, there's still lots of pro level guys that are still touring with them. Pick your favorite major city, and I'm quite sure you'll find a cover band with somebody that's still using a head and 412 cabinet. Plenty of those guys still out there as well. You know, I mean, it's there are a lot of people out there that are going smaller because they're, kind of like me. They're getting older. They're getting tired of lugging that shit around everywhere. Uh, I dread the day, that somebody calls me up and says, "Hey, you need to do, you need to come play this gig here." Yanking this big fucking thing out of this room does not sound like a lot of fun, to be honest. It's not only is it got to go down this, out of this room, but it's got to go around, down the hall, around the corner, down the stairs, with nobody to help me. So, I didn't mind it. I lugged that thing up and down, 2 flights of stairs in my old apartment in my 20s and early 30s. It didn't bother me then, but now that I'm in my 40s, it's not, that's not nearly as much. Doesn't sound nearly as much fun as it once did. So I don't know what I'm gonna do for that situation yet, to be honest. Mm. But as I mentioned earlier, and as OGOG is saying here, all through PA system, there's also a lot more bands that are going completely silent on stage and going direct with processors or preamps or whatever it may be. I'm not doing that. Fireball says, "What do you think of the RX 120 and the 412 cap for 550 brand new? Is worth it?" RX 120 sells for, I don't know what's that, $300 amp or something like that, 300-400 bucks. If it's a matching 412, which is probably 250, 300 bucks. I don't know. I can't recall what those. I mean, if you're not familiar with the RX 120, for anybody else that's paying attention, it's a Randall amp. And I think that the RX series, I think, are the hybrid amps. So they've got the single tube preamp section going into the solid state power amp. If it's, 550, I'd have to look it up, to be honest with you, because it's been a while since I've looked at those, and I have no idea what they're selling for in the used market. My initial instinct says, yeah, it's pretty decent, but if it's, number one, if somebody's selling it brand new for that much, I've already got a couple red flags going off, wanting to know what's wrong with it, or worse, is it stolen? So why 100-watt amp when you can do it with 50-watt? I'll tell you what, if you ever get a chance to conduct this experiment, pick your favorite Marshall or something or other, like a Marshall, like a 1987 X and a 1959 SLP, which is your current. The 1987, they don't make that. They don't make that anymore. That was the old 50-watt Plexi. Reissue. That was the old 50-watt Plexi reissue. Compare a 50-watt Plexi reissue to a 100-watt Plexi reissue, and through the same cab and everything, and you will probably notice a slight tonal difference. Not a huge difference at all, but it's noticeable. The 100-watt just seems to be more open, bigger. Whereas the 50-watt kind of seems like it's being like it's being restricted or held back a little bit. I don't know any other way to explain it. But with Marshalls in particular, I've always preferred the 100-watt version of any of their models. No, it doesn't mean I hate the 50-watt version. It's not what I'm saying. But if I got my choice between a 100-watt JCM 800 and a 50-watt JCM 800, give me the 100-watt. Even if I don't need all that power. And if it's too much, I throw an attenuator on it. Mr. Blue says, any idea on a tube swat on a Fender Hot Rod Deluxe to tame the output? Nope, I wouldn't. I wouldn't change out any tubes on it, especially if you're trying to regulate the output on it. But again, I'd recommend a good attenuators have come a long way. A long way. They're not total tone vacuums like they once were. If like if you want the Weber attenuators, for example, those are great attenuators, great bang for the buck. They're not expensive. The 2-note stuff. I mean, you got the captor. So many people. Those. I would love to know the tally of how many captor X's 2-notes has sold since they came out with it in 2019, 2020. I can't remember what year it came out now, but it won. That amp got voted by a few magazines, or that device got voted by a few magazines for best new gear of the year, whatever that award is. So I would probably look into going something that route so that you don't have to mess with changing out any capacitors or anything like that on the board itself if with going with that might be required with going with a new tube type. John Taylor says I've seen some club shows where they had 3 stacks apiece. Man, I played in a southern rock cover band. I played bass in this band several years back, and the guitar player, was a good friend of mine. We're still very good friends today. Rick played through. We were playing some pretty small, clubs and venues. One-off events, things like that were, maybe 100 people. Nothing that was really overly huge. That dude brought 2 DSL 100 full stacks with him everywhere we went. Even practice, he played through both of them. 200 watt, full, so 200 watt Marshall heads and 4 412 cabinets. Remember one time you told me, I need a third one. I said, dude, you don't need 2 of them. What the fuck are you talking about buying a third one for? Nikita Argentov is here. Says, greetings from Russia, specifically North Russia. Play something. Check out any of my other videos. Where like regular upload videos where that's where all the guitar playing is on my channel. This live streams on my channel are just an opportunity for me to hang out with you guys and answer some questions and share my experiences and stuff with in my business and that kind of stuff. So I don't maybe one day I'll figure out technology to get get my guitar tone, figure out how to stream that with everything else, but I haven't done that yet. So Lee Alexander said he was going to say he's going to show me how to do that, but he's in the middle of moving to another country as we speak right now. So he doesn't quite have time. Ryan Hall says, which Eddie Van Halen guitar makes are the best factory? I have no idea what you're asking me. I don't know if that's related to EVH guitars. I don't know if that's... Yeah, I'd be more specific. I have no idea what you're referring to. Kobias says, Robert, would you be down for a pedal board amp project? Tech 21 makes a Sans amp. Seymour Duncan makes the Power Stage 200. Strymon makes the Iridium, and so on. So I see. So you're wanting me to build a pedal board with a preamp, a power amp, and cab sim of some kind. I could just about do that here. Yeah, maybe. You know, the power amp portion of that equation is the hard thing to come by, or usually the hardest thing or the most expensive. You know, and the Duncan Power Stage stuff is great. The Quilter stuff is awesome. You know, on the cheap, Electro Harmonics makes that what's that 55 Magnum or whatever they call it. It's a little pedal sized power amp. It's like 50 watts or something. Orange has the Pedal Baby for like $400. You know, there's a lot of stuff. You know, that arena is growing. Actually, matter of fact, the old Crate Power Block, you can find those used for cheap, dirt cheap. I keep meaning to pick one of those up actually. Specifically for that reason. And I haven't done it yet. Maybe I'll do that this week. Nunez says, darn it, need gas in the can for the lawnmower. I guess I'll buy Gatorade while I'm in there. 2203 is so damn expensive, though. Well, I mean, it's a you know, even I mean I agree the reissues are really pricey, and I don't know why they've gotten that expensive, but they have. But you know, they're a lot cheaper on the used market, and you can even find some of the older vintage ones from the 80s and early 90s on the used market that are a lot more affordable. You know, whether or not it's been modified and all hacked up, that I don't know. That's a different story. But Mr. Blue says get the high watt and use the two notes. I'm not sure two notes is going to tame how much a two notes is going to tame a high watt. I gotta give high watt their due, man. They earn their name. You know, the DR403, that 400 watt freaking monstrosity. I know Gilmore used them, but good God, those things are fucking loud. Hey, GL3, what's up, brother? How are you? That's so you guys know who I'm talking to. Good friend of mine that I grew up with since childhood. We've known each other. How long have we known each other? God, 30 something years now. Easy. Almost 40. Almost 40 years. He says, what's your favorite pickup upgrade for a 96 Les Paul Standard, keeping it true to sound with a 21-ton Jimmy Page wiring harness? Ooh. You know, if you're... I think really what you're looking for something, you know, something the most comparable to a hand-wired PAF. And usually, I think probably, that I'm familiar with anyway, Gibson pickups, probably the 57 Classics, I think, are the closest. You know, some people say maybe, you know, some say the Burstbuckers, but with the exception of the Burstbucker Pro, the Burstbucker 1, 2, and 3, I've said this before, I think all three of those sound like shit. I hate those pickups. So, you know, the 57 Classics, I think, are a little bit more, you know, a little bit more authentic to that particular tone. Non-Gibson pickups, Duncan 59s, DiMarzio PAFs actually are really close. Duncan, boy, what else? Pearly Gates, I think, is in that neighborhood. So, yeah, off the top of my head, I'd probably start with one of those. Let's see. Jack Collins is here from Louisiana. What's up, dude? Mr. Blue says, love your channel. Appreciate all you give to us. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Very, very much. John Taylor says, Fry at Power Station is the way to go if you have the cash. That is true. Well, though that's not the only one. There's Fry at Power Station. Of course, the Boss Wazacraft 2 amp expander is badass, and I think maybe the Oxbox, Universal Audio Oxbox, will also do all of that. All those devices are all really, really similar with not only amp attenuation but also load boxes and onboard IRs. The Boss Tube amp expander, that thing's by far the craziest. That does all kinds of shit that I can't even wrap my brain around. So there is motion at your front door. Let's see who's at my front door. There's just the wind blowing the shit around. That's... Yep, that's all it is. Ryan Hall says, any factory-made EVH guitar, any company made a guitar to Ed specs, Wolfie, Old Creamers, Gibson, so on. Sorry, slow typer. Okay, so any production-made Eddie Van Halen-related guitar. I'm kind of partial to the Music Man. They call it the Axis these days, but that was like the original Wolfgang. They didn't. Eddie didn't work with them for but about a year or so. That relationship was pretty short lived before he went to Peavey. But those are pretty cool. And the Axis guitars are still made today. You can still buy them. You can still find them. The Peavey Wolfgangs are nice. I haven't played one of those new HP 24s that just came out. I think they're made in France of all places. Is where they're having those made. They're like $2,500. But that's their new current equivalent line. I think it's called the HP 24. What the old Wolfgangs used to be, and people rave about the current line. EVH, all those EVH guitars. Eddie Van Halen themed guitars. I remember when those first came out. There was people that were raving about the new Wolfgangs and saying they were way better than the Peaveys that had been out for years before that. I'd never sat down and A-beat them, but I can attest to the fact that they are pretty good guitars. My favorites, though, I don't know, man. Those old Kramers are pretty good too. Those old Berettas from the 80s. If I had to pick one, I would say, it'd probably be a toss-up between those and maybe the Peavey Wolfgang stuff. Jack Collins says, believe it or not, I've got an Epiphone with 57 Classics in it. They do put, USA Gibson pickups on some of their guitars from time to time. It does happen. For the longest time, all the import pickups that Epiphone was putting in their guitars was one called the Alnico, called the Alnico Classic, which is basically a Chinese import version of the 57 Classic. That's literally what that is. And then once those pickups are a little bit more hit or miss. Some guitars, they sound pretty good, and others they don't. Rondo Bondo is here. Ragnar 666. Cinderella had a rough week. Yeah, they did. I forgot, and I've forgotten the guy's name, but their guitar player died. He wasn't even 60. He was only like 54 or something. He was relatively young. It was sad. Sad to hear. Good guitar player. I saw him live a couple of times. Fireball says, my buddy has a Korean DNML and a Gibson Standard Les Paul, and the necks feel almost identical. That is true. A lot of Dean necks do feel, have a very Gibson-esque profile to them. That's not uncommon. I've often thought the same thing myself with some of those Dean guitars. Depends on the neck, of course, but. Rondo Bondo says, I just picked up a 50-watt 87 Marshall Silver Jubilee. I bet you paid a few bucks for that. Those are not easy to find. Those 80 Jubilees are really hard to find. When they pop up, they're not up for long because somebody just grabs them. Well, the keyboardist died. Cinderella's keyboard player died too? I didn't hear that. No shit. Wow. That must have happened after the guitar player died. Wow. Cushman NYC says, I've got a Japan build Epiphone Les Paul. It's not bad. You must have one of the Elitist series. Those Epiphone Elitist series are awesome, man. Those things are just as nice as anything they've ever built in the U.S. Those are great guitars. I'd love to have one of those. Robert Dirt keyboard player died too. Although he didn't, nobody know it was. He was a keyboard player for him. He stayed behind the speaker. Okay, so he was their keyboard player, but he wasn't like an official member of the band because they didn't have him out there on stage with them. I thought maybe I'm thinking of Poison. Poison has. They have it. They hire a keyboard player that goes out on tour with them that does go out there and play on stage with them. But I don't know that they officially. I don't think he's ever officially been credited as an official member of the band. I think he's just a hired gun. I don't even know if it's the same guy. I couldn't even tell you his name. Yeah. Yep. No, you're right. You got it. Pardon me. No, I didn't realize their keyboard player died too. You're right. That is sad. That's very sad. The guitar player died. God, man, what a killer guitar tone that dude had. Man, he was a great player. All right, fellas, we're not quite there yet, but we're closing in on 2 hours, so I got a whole laundry list full of stuff. Holy shit, it's almost 3:30 here. Yeah, I got a whole laundry list full of shit I got to get done. So I'm going to go tackle that, and you guys go tackle what you got to do this weekend, and I will see you sometime here soon. See you, everybody. Have a great weekend.